He is pure love. I just haven't got any doubt at all about Baba.
And I felt that if this man has done everything that Jesus has done, I want to be with him. I want to spend some time with him.
So what's the lesson here to you?
Well, he wants people to go within. He said, like, you've been to school, you've been to the university, you know, go within and work on the teaching.
It's the story about how two people came to know and follow Indian holy man Sri Satya Sai Baba. Doris and Dennis Loel from Australia share their account about how Sai Baba first came into their lives and how their lives have become forever transformed. Welcome to Souljourns. This interview was recorded in Cleveland, Ohio, USA in October 2006.
Beginning with you, Doris, if you don't mind sharing how you first heard of Sai Baba and became interested to the point where you've seen him now many, many times. Tell us your story about that.
Well, I was going to a church in Arthur Hill Coat. I don't know if any of you know him from Australia. He's the one that Baba calls the lion. He's got grey hair and a beard. And he brought some of Richard Bock's cine films to the church that we went to at the time. And I saw them a couple of times, but I didn't go into it straight away. I had a lot of questions and I didn't know.
What did you think of Sai Baba when you first heard those stories?
I don't know. I thought, well, if he's so great, why doesn't he help more of the poor people in India? Does he go for the rich people? You know, all that kind of thing. I wasn't really sure.
You were a skeptic?
Yeah, I was to start with.
And how long did that last?
Oh, until I saw him, which is about 6 years later.
So for 6 years you had your doubts.
Yeah, I didn't really, I mean, I was pretty involved with the church, so I didn't really give it such a huge lot of thought. Dennis had a book, and I read one chapter, and I thought, well, I can't read this, and put it away.
What was
it? It was about a year later.
Man of Miracles.
Man of
Miracles.
So,
can you hear me?
Yeah. So then what happened?
I went to see my elderly mother in England, and just by chance went to England via Air India. And so I thought, well, maybe I could make a stopover on the way back and see what this man's all about, which I did. And I got off the plane and got taken straight to the Brindavan ashram by the taxi driver. And I'd never been to a centre before, didn't know any of the protocols, so I got into trouble straight away because I walked across the sand with my shoes on and took my jacket off, and I had a little pink jumper on. Siva doll threw her arms up in horror. Take your shoes off, get your jumper back and coat on. And it was only about 500 people there because it was at Brindavan and it was the beginning of April. And it was under the tree. I mean, when I look back now, what a blessing that was to be so close to him. And he looked at me and it's just as if we were the only two that were there. So that was the first time I saw him.
So tell me more about how that first experience moved you to the point where, even though you had been, by your own admission, somewhat of a skeptic for the previous 6 years, this removed your doubts. How could that remove your doubts so thoroughly?
Well, I don't know that it completely did then, although I thought, well, he doesn't wear jewellery, he's very humble. He walked across the sand in a very humble way, and I thought he was a very humble person. And I think the more I saw him, because Dennis and myself did the same thing 2 years later on the way back from England, and there was about 1,000 people there then. And I don't know, I suppose he must have just got me on that train and I have never got on.
Some people say they feel the energy of Sai Baba. Some people say they hear his voice intuitively in their mind's eye. Any of this happened to you?
Yeah.
Or, tell us.
Yeah. Well, see, the first twice I went, I said, I'm not going back. I can't take this. Okay, Baba's fine. I'll keep him in my heart, but I don't want to go back to India. But 6 months later, after the second time, I went back with another group leader. And it was in the interview room in 2 days. I'd only gone for 2 weeks anyway. And that was great. But then I sort of went again with her on a couple of other occasions. And we went in the interview room, but I was the only one he didn't talk to. So I came out of there feeling a bit upset, thinking, what have I done? He's not talking to me. I'm the only one he's not talking to. Anyway, I pondered on that. And and he said, I'll see the Australians on the 15th. And we thought, yeah, fine, the 15th of what, which year, which month, like you do. But he did. He actually did do it on the 15th, a couple of days later. And meanwhile, I'd pondered on the inner level. It's not like talking to you. I'm asking him on the inner level, why didn't you talk to me? And he said, because I talk to you all the time. So I thought, well, okay. And then the second time he did talk to me. And I came out of there then thinking, why is it you seem so familiar? I mean, I've only sort of known about you for about 10 years, but it's just as if I've known you all my life. And what came to me with that was, well, of course I've known him all my life. He's been with me all my life. You know, he's inside me, he's with me all the time. So how could I not know him? You know, like a best friend, as you might say, you know.
So tell us, who is Sai Baba?
Well, to me, he's just pure spirit, but you really have to go past the body to pick that up, I think. The first time I heard him talking, I just knew that he was just pure spirit. I mean, I know the body's there, and that's beautiful to be next to the physical body, but he's just pure spirit. To me, I'm not going to say God, because a lot of people might not like that, but to me, he's the spirit, he's the power that runs the whole universe.
And how has being aware of Sai Baba as pure spirit changed your life?
Well, I think one of the best things is that he's taught me to listen to him within me, you know, to my inner voice, to my conscience, whichever way you like to look at it. You know, that he's there, and you just have to tune yourself into being aware of what he wants you to do.
And being raised in a previous religion or spiritual practice didn't teach you that? This is a new component?
Well, not really, because my mother was a spiritualist and she always believed in life after death, and I was brought up knowing that, you know, there's more to it than just the orthodox religions. You know, that there is like karma and life after death and things like that. So that side of it didn't bother me.
Let's see what Dennis has on his mind. I'll ask you the easiest question I have up front, Dennis.
Thanks.
Get your response. Who is Sai Baba?
For me, he's a divine manifestation.
What's that mean?
He's God. He's God in a human body. He is pure love, pure consciousness, pure truth.
Yeah.
Why would God come in a human body?
Well, he said and this is to raise mankind, to raise the consciousness of mankind. And I don't have any doubts about that. The consciousness of anybody that comes in contact with Swami is changed. Regardless of whether we accept it or not, we're all changed. You can't help but be changed in some way if you come in contact with him.
How's he changed you?
He's changed me right across the board, I think. And the first thing he's changed me is unconditional love. I think my capacity to love unconditionally, and that's probably the most important thing, has been changed. To love without expectation, I think, and that probably is the most important thing for me, is to be able, he's changed that, and to be able to love and let go.
Is that his biggest message, do you think?
Well, for me, that's the biggest message. That's the great message, is to love without expectations.
I get a feeling that wasn't very hard for you to do.
It was. There's always an expectation, you know, that you do something, and even if I believed in karma, there was always the expectation. There was always expectation that the universe will give me something back for that which I've given. You know, I'll do this anyway, I'll get it back at some stage. If not now, I'll get it back at some stage in the future. There's always that expectation, even if once I got to that point. But then I've found in recent times that the expectation, I don't care, it doesn't worry me. The essence of it is just to give and give, and then I just know from my area, I've just have developed the faith in recent times that my needs will be met anyway, regardless of what. And I think, and it's the purity of giving, which to me is the essence. Is that if you can just give in a spontaneous way without without any expectations at all, just because there is just because there is a need. And I think that's probably the greatest gift that I've had.
You can reveal as much or as little as you're comfortable with. What's Dennis like today versus the Dennis of 25 years ago?
Well, I think the basic foundations were laid by my parents and and I suppose if you believe in reincarnation, by previous existences. But and also 25 years ago, I'd been on this pathway since I was born. But consciously, I was on this pathway since I was 21, and so I was growing in a way which was fairly erratic, but nevertheless I was growing. But the difference today is the purity of I think the wisdom that's come. The wisdom that's come through experience, through being in the presence of the Lord, through being in the company of the people who also are in His presence. It's through that experience I find the subtle changes come. It's never a great change. It's never like, for me anyway, maybe for everybody here, you might have a significant change in your life. There might be an earth-shattering change in you. But for me, it's always been slow, subtle changes. And in recent times, I was able to spend about 5 months out of about 12 months at the ashram in Barbara's company. And I've noticed a tremendous change because I was there. I mean, everything else was leading to that time, and then the opportunity came for me to spend that time there, and I grasped it as much as I could. And I just found that just being in His presence, just being in that presence day after day after day, I just found that the change, the subtle change day after day, and you look back at a month and 2 months and 3 months, and I just noticed that the equanimity was coming, the purity of the consciousness was coming, the gift of being able to let go. I noticed those things were happening and manifesting, and the faith was intensifying, so that you can let go. You know, if you don't have the faith, you don't let go. If you don't have the faith, you have the fear. You know, what's happening to the future? What's going to happen to me? But if you have the faith, then that fear of the future slowly evaporates, and the capacity to start to live at the moment. You don't have to be so conscious about living about tomorrow, because tomorrow will look after itself. And that for me, these are the things which have come very strongly during this period of being able to spend that 5 or 6 months in His presence. And this is over a period of 12 or 13 or 14 months. But that really intensified all the time beforehand, and that's just really intensified that. And that was the great gift of the last 12 months to me, or the last 13 or 14 months to me.
I'd like you to say a little extra about that, because Jody and I remember seeing you there at Christmas time, and
Yes.
you had been a Save-A-Doll, you were doing volunteer work, you were by yourself, Doris wasn't there at that time, and you would come in by yourself, you would leave by yourself, you would be with Baba, and 60,000 other people.
Yes.
So even though you were having this great connection to Baba, you weren't alone. There was a whole city of people there,
Yes.
at least 60,000 people. So share a little more. You weren't in his room with an interview. You weren't talking to him face to face. You were there with a huge crowd of people, and yet you come away with this deeper connection that you just talked about.
Well, you're in the energy. You know, I suppose, are there many people here that have been to Swami's ashram? Yes, there's a number of it, but you're in the energy. Baba, as most of us probably know anyway, he has this aura. You know, he has this energy. You may not see it, but eventually, you know, over a period of time, you start to really feel it, because it's just there. You know, you can come into some churches and you go into a church and you can feel it. You know there's a sense of peace in a church, but it's there. It's just the presence of being in that energy which is manifested from the presence of the Lord. and you're in it day after day after day. You're in it for hours. You come down, you may go down there down to sit in Psych Holland Hall or wherever you are at that particular time, and so you meditate or you sit or you talk or you're in that presence, and it's just changes your consciousness. It just perceptibly day after day. It's like all of us, you know, if we're in the company of whatever it is, if we're in the company, if we want to be a great scientist, and we're in the company of great scientists, a great scientist day after day, perceptibly your thought processes start to change. You become more aware because of the information that comes. Well, Swami, it's not necessarily the information, it's the presence that you find that your consciousness is rising. However it rises, however you see that consciousness, your energies are changing. And it's that change of your energy, change of who you are, just by being in that presence. And that was, to me, was a magnificent gift. I always wanted to be there for 6 months if I could. I had a drawing to be there, but this period just really allowed it. And I've watched other people that have been there. I've watched them and I've looked at them, and for people who've been there for an extended period of time, I've seen that change. I've seen the change in their behaviour. And you become aware of who they are. You become aware of the peace that comes into their life. You become aware of their change of priorities. And I noticed that myself, and that's exactly what I wanted, aware in the change of your thought processes.
You two are both speaking so beautifully of your love and feelings about Sai Baba. I've got some questions here from those of us at the Cleveland Sai Center Study Circle to ask of you, and I think what I'll do, Doris, is ask you the first one on the list, which is, how did you get to know the world-famous pink twins, the O'Brien sisters?
Well, they've always lived within a half an hour of us, and we just got to know them a few years ago. But we got to know them really intimately when we were helping when Dorothy got sick, when she had the stroke.
And
So,
and their sisters who were led to Baba years ago by...
oh, I think they went there the first time. They first heard about him about 75, I think, but I don't think they got there till about 80, did they?
Yes, it's
1980, thereabouts.
80, 81.
And their sisters who are approximately the same age as Sai Baba.
2 years older.
2 years older, and
Yeah.
never married, always wear pink,
Yeah.
and became hugely in love with everything that Baba stood for.
Yes, they could have married, especially Moya, but they chose not to because they knew they'd be separated, and I think by that time they probably already started Swara, which is a respite centre on a daily basis for physically and mentally handicapped people, you know.
So they had their charity work there.
So they're very much into that, and so to marry they decided no, it wasn't for them.
And you being a nurse and Dennis being your husband, you both decided to make facilitating their trips your seva, your goodwill work, as I understand.
Well, after Dorothy had the stroke, because she was in a wheelchair, she couldn't walk, and they still wanted to go to India, but the lady that used to take them for some years, she sort of retired from Swara, and she retired from taking them for personal reasons of her own, and so we took them, you know. That took a bit of courage, I can tell you. Wasn't easy, but we took them, and you know, they got there.
And how many times do you think you were both able to be in India to see Sai Baba and to be physically in Sai Baba's presence, either together
I
or
forget
separately?
how many
Well,
times.
come on, give us an idea.
No, I got no idea. It's probably over 30, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more than
Because I started going with a group leader who I learned a lot from, apart from going the first twice and find out the hard way about some things, which I think helped me with taking groups. But then after a while I started taking groups myself, and so sometimes I go twice a year. I think for 2 years I might have even gone 3 times a year.
So how important was it for Baba, for your life to be influenced by having that much access to Sai Baba's presence? There are people here who believe, and I'm sure they're right, that you don't have to leave Cleveland, Ohio.
You don't. No, you don't. I mean, everything's personal to each person. You know, it's. I can't speak for anybody else, but I think for me, I've always, I think that's why I was a nurse, I suppose. I've always enjoyed helping people. My heart goes out, like if I see somebody in need. And I've been there a couple of times and learnt the hard way about what it's like to be by yourself, you know, to go and see Barbara. And I just regarded it as a joy and a privilege for me to be able to take people there and just sort of take their passports and money, and they just step back and not worry about anything until they got there. And I just regarded that as a privilege to be able to do that service.
Somebody here has already, you've already answered the question, how has Sai Baba helped to change your life? Somebody here wants to know how knowing the Pink Twins has changed your life.
Oh, I don't know. Well, it has, I suppose, because that was two pretty big journeys, and you know, they were always full of love, and that was just a privilege. I got no idea why, if we were chosen to be part of that whole thing, but it was a privilege to be able to serve. Like Dorothy used to worry and think, you know, look what you've got to do, and I said to her, look, this, just allow us to serve. Maybe this has happened to you to allow other people to serve, you know, so.
Somebody wants to know when Swami would speak to you, if it was always in English, or did he speak in Telugu and had somebody translate for you?
I have heard him talk in Telugu, but no, always in English. Yeah.
Can you remember some of the highlights of things he may have said to you over the years?
Oh my God, where do you start? You haven't got enough time for an hour. You haven't got enough time. Well, when he gave me this first, the Omnipresence, that's a really big one, and I've had this a few years, not the green one, the other one. And I used to say in Australia to my husband and my friends, like, if Baba ever makes me a ring, and it doesn't matter if he doesn't, because like when you're nursing, you're not supposed to be wearing all the jewellery. If he ever does, I only want a little ring. I don't want one of those great big ones that he makes sometimes. And I took a group, and we were blessed to get in the interview room, and he called me over, and he said, I will make a little ring. So when I got there, he's like this, and then if anybody's ever seen those little tiny children's ones you can buy in the village with his face, and I looked at it and I thought, well, it's a good job I know, or I feel I know something about who you are, because there's no way in the world would that even fit on my little finger, let alone that one or any other one. But as he put it on my finger, it did. It went on without a problem. So and he said, I will make little rings. Swami knows. He really proved to me that he's everywhere. He's here. He's in everybody, and he's just here now. I don't know where he's sitting, but he's here. So he's sitting in all of us.
So you shared that story Friday night of Baba's omnipresence, omniscience, and I said I was going to ask both of you for any other examples of his proving his omnipresence to you over the years, either one of you.
Yeah, I can tell you one.
All right.
It's not a pretty story.
Well, we like stories that's a pity.
We had an interview. We were in Brindaman, and the day before we left, Doris and I were in the room, and we were stressing out. Both of us were stressing out. You know, it was tomorrow we're going, and I was going, and Doris was staying behind. Can you remember?
Yeah.
Or we were stressing out, and we had an argument. We really had an argument.
In the interview?
No, this was in the room. We were staying in the guest house, just across the road, from Brindaman Ashram. Those who know the ashram, it's just across the road and through an alley. And we were staying there, and you know, we're going home, and there's so many things got to do. Finalisation of being together, and there's tomorrow, and the last. And whatever, and all the tickets have got to be right, and everything has to be right. And Doris is staying, and I'm going. Anyway, we end up when the mood was really black. It was quite dark actually. It was the lightning flying left, right, and centre. And anyway, it settled down, and we went on. And the next day, we were called in for an interview. And anyway, yeah. We're called in, and there's an outer interview room at Brindaman, and then there's an inner interview at Brindaman. This is how I remember it anyway. Doris will probably think of it differently.
No, it's the same.
Yeah. And so in the outer interview, we spent some time with us, and that was a beautiful time. It was just amazing. And then he took us into a smaller inner interview. There were three of us and an elderly lady. We were all from Brisbane. And he said said to us, what did he say? He said there was anger in your relationship. There was anger.
Oh, something he said to the effect that we just fell out or something.
Yeah, we'd had
like
a falling out the night before. So, I mean, he knew exactly what happened that night before. I mean, that was the key to it. I mean, he knew. Whatever way he knew. And for me, I don't have any doubts that there is absolutely nothing that is hidden from Swami. There's just nothing. Whether he chooses to mention it to you, that's another thing. But there is nothing. I'm sure and there'll be endless stories, and that's just one simple story.
Dennis, you said that you came the slow, scenic route, nothing spectacular, just a slow build-up of conviction.
Yeah.
And somebody asked, is there in your memory a defining point or experience or moment that perhaps enabled you to say, this is it? He's real, this is the real deal, and I'm no longer just cruising on fumes of possibility that he is who they say he is, but I know he is. Because it seems to be that's where you are now.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's difficult to answer. Look, I started earlier in the piece. I read The Man of Miracles, and I felt that if this man has done everything that Jesus has done, I want to be with him. I want to spend some time with him. And so it took me 7 years to get there. I mean, I wanted to go there every year, but it took me 7 years to get there. And the first time I saw him, he was different to what I expected. Of course, I'd been looking at pictures and saw old films of a person who was 15, 20 years younger than what he was when I first saw him. So that was a bit of a shock initially. And then I suppose it was about another 3 years, I just came to the conclusion that it was no sudden decision, no epiphany. There was no defining time. It was just all of a sudden it was just there. It was just there that I trusted and believed and there have been moments. When things have happened, and for a period of time, I wasn't sure. There was an area I wasn't sure of. I was confirming exactly what I felt before, but it always came back to that same situation. And never since the end of that time did I ever have a doubt. And
why you? Why manifestations, so much conviction, so many blessings, and so many others in the world never even get to hear his name?
I don't know.
Hazard a guess.
Ready.
I don't think I can, because that'll be a judgment. I mean, maybe I need it. Maybe other people don't need it. Maybe I need it. Other than that, I can't give you an answer.
Yes, Doris.
Well, it's everything in its own time. I mean, some people can be devotees of the truth and of love, and without even knowing anything about Swami. And also, it comes from past lifetimes sometimes, Baba says. Like sometimes you've perhaps been born before when he was Shirdi Baba, or, it's your time to find out about him.
Somebody wants to know, Doris, what is the most meaningful teaching for you with regard to devotion? and you add a Sai Baba experience that may be connected to it or related to it, what's the most meaningful teaching for you with regard to the act of devotion, the idea of devotion?
Well, some people are very much into meditation. There's different people on different pathways spiritually, but I found that like nursing and helping other people, and I've always been on a spiritual pathway right from being a child anyway. Baba said once in an interview, he said to me, "What do you do?" And I thought, well, I can't say I'm a nurse anymore because I've retired from that. So I said, "Oh, I'm the president of a centre, Swami, or chairperson, and I work for you," because he just took me unawares, you know. And he said, "No." He said, "You don't work for me." He said, "You work from the heart with no expectations for everybody you come in contact with, then you're working for God. But you don't work for me as like he's sitting in India. You know, like you have to see the God within everybody," was what he was saying. And so, I don't know, I just quite happy to help people, and he is pure love. I just haven't got any doubt at all about Baba. I'm just quite happy to help anybody that wants to help.
Dennis, you're still a young man.
That's true.
You're 64.
Hallelujah.
What do you plan to do with the rest of your life?
I hope more of the same. It's the best part of my life, definitely.
Is it still getting better?
Yeah, yes, it is. Yeah. Yes, for me, it's getting better. For me, it's getting better. I've got reasonable health. I've got good health, and for me, it's getting better. Good health. Optimism. I'm very optimistic about the future of the world. Extremely optimistic. I'm optimistic about the directions that I'm going in, and I hope I retain that. I expect, and it's just been a very good time the last 18 months or so since I turned 60. It's been a very good time since I've gone into the forest. Now the forest of the spirit, or the forest of the mind. Now, since then, it's been wonderful.
Well, you're in the forest of Cleveland, Ohio right now. What is it like when you go around the world, literally, or around your neighborhood, and you encounter fellow Sai Baba enthusiasts, people who love Sai Baba? Does that add anything to your own devotion or your own depth of conviction? Or is this strictly a solitary journey for Dennis?
Well, for me, I like the company of my fellow people. I like the company of anybody who's following the same lines. I like the company of most people. I mean, I talk to the dog, you know. So I enjoy his company. I talk to him. I love him. So I'm that sort of person, you know. But I mean, it's really important. I think satsang is really important, and always has been for me. And satsang of like-minded people, or if you don't want to call it satsang, the company of like-minded people is really important. I find it gives me a tremendous amount of upliftment. It's just so uplifting to be with people who are spiritually inclined. Because it just reinforces the direction that you're going. I suppose it's getting less important, I suppose, as time goes by, but it's very important for me. Can I just say one thing before, and then I can get it off my mind. Look, I had the privilege of being with Dorothy and Moya for that.
We've got time. And Dorothy's the one who's gone now, and I'm going to say it's been 2.5 years, Doris and Dennis.
3 years.
3 years now. And as as Dennis is thinking about what he wants to share with us, she died in Prashanti Nilayam with Sai Baba having come to her and Dennis at her side in the middle of the night, alone. And Baba told them that Dorothy O'Brien, at 80, she would have been then, 79, merged with him. And for those of you who don't know what that means, maybe we'll get Dennis to share his feelings about that.
Yeah, it was a privilege. We worked, there was a whole group of us that worked together, Sai Baba devotees and some that weren't, that really worked with Moya for a period of 15 months. Dorothy?
More than that, I think.
Yeah, 15. Well, it was September through, it was approximately that period of time, and it was an amazing period, really.
The period since her stroke until she passed?
Well, no, after...
From the stroke until she passed.
Yeah, after she had the stroke, she couldn't walk, and because they knew I was a nurse and because, I don't know, I suppose, they would only allow me to do really personal things, you know. But the centre was very good because they sort of made up a roster because she had to be put into bed, you know. So they made up a roster of people that would take food, or they would help with the lifting and things like that.
And
or exercising and things like that, yeah. So a lot of people were involved.
Okay. So Dennis, back to what you wanted to...
Well, it was a privilege. It was an amazing time. It was just that period. It was a very intense period because you're living with a person. You're living with two people who've been on the spiritual pathway. Entirely different people. Two different people are twins, but they were two people, and it was an amazing experience that 15 months. We travelled over twice, and we spent time with them on a constant basis. When we were away for a month or 6 weeks, we were there for 2 months, and it was just the privilege to do that 15 months with these two ladies was something I'm very thankful for. They are very giving. Dorothy had a great sense of peace and a great sense of quietness and stillness. Moya had a great, she's a very spiritual person, and she had a power to accomplish things which most people would never even endeavour to accomplish. And she had a natural wisdom as well. And combine the two of them, it was just a privilege to be there, and I just really wanted to express that. It was something I really felt.
Does Dorothy ever come to you?
Yeah, I've seen her. Yeah. Beautiful. It's lovely to know how she's free of all her pain and she doesn't have to worry anymore about whether she can walk or not. And
Does she talk to you?
Yeah, a couple of times. Yeah, and Moya's felt her as well. Yeah, so that's beautiful. But, you know, Moya's really brave, but I know that there would be the odd time or two, you know, when she would have to feel it a lot, maybe when she's in bed at night or something like that.
Somebody would like to know, Doris, if Baba appears in your dreams.
Oh, a lot of time.
A lot of times?
Yeah, just before I took the last group at the end of March, I had the most beautiful dream of him. And I thought, well, I don't tell the group, but I don't think we're going to get an interview this time, because he gave me one in my dream, and that was just beautiful. We were both sitting there on the floor in the interview room, and it was just lovely. And one of the things out of that was that when I got up to leave the interview room, this is at Put a Party, came out with me and give me a hug. I mean, that's something that won't happen in real life, but give me a hug, and I was thinking, oh, how little you are, you know. No, I've had quite a few.
So then fast forward, what happened when you got there?
Well, we had a beautiful trip. The group was thrilled to bits because there wasn't many people that put a party. They were getting in the front couple of lines all the time. And then we went to Cody Canal, you know, which was like another trip altogether. And then again, you're very close to Baba there as well. So they were more than happy. I mean, these days, you can just, I told them, look, just forget the interview because it's so rare now, you know. Even for the people on the veranda, they don't get in anymore like they used to. And the interviews have changed anyway, the way he does it.
So what's the lesson here to you?
Well, he wants people to go within. He said, like, you've been to school, you've been to the university, you know, go within and work on the teachings. You know, I've given you all these teachings, what are you doing with them?
Dennis, somebody wants to know if Moya needs your help, would you go back again?
Yes.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
doubt.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And one thing I wanted to ask, and you can be as personal as you care to be, I've observed you now several times since Friday when you arrived, with the ability to almost go into instant meditation. Whether you're listening to a spiritual song on an iPod or thinking about Baba or in discussion with us about something, you create this impression of being able to center yourself like that. Where did you learn that? Describe what your meditation is a little bit, and how much is Baba a part of it?
I've always been drawn to, certainly since we went to the spiritualist church. I mean, anybody who knows anything about spiritualism, often you have groups. Often, from most spiritualist churches that I know, there are groups. There are development groups, what they call development groups, and the development group is to teach you to become a medium or to bring out that innate spirituality within yourself. And I feel that I did that for 10 years when we were at the spiritualist church. We were at the spiritualist church for 10 years before, and that's where we came to know about Swami. And from that doing that, I started to get the liking for meditation, and started to get the liking for going into the quiet. And I suppose it's just continued on from there. And I get a sense of peace and quiet, a sense of stillness.
Is Baba there?
From the meditation. Well, he's not in the form, not in that, but it's just a sense of, for me, it's a sense of stillness, it's a sense of quietness, a sense of peace, a sense of being. And from that, a sense of direction.
Can you take it to the bank?
Well, I dare say you could. I dare say you could, because you make bigger decisions. So better decisions are bankable, I dare say. For those who want to make good decisions.
And the cliche,
Maybe a bit of meditation.
the standard question, how do you know it's the voice of the divine answering your question, or merely the voice of your desire?
Experience. And accepting the consequences if it's not.
Wow. Sean over here wrote a pretty interesting question, and I'm going to ask it of both of you. I'll start with you since the camera's on you. Since Baba says we are also God, the only difference is that he knows it and we don't. Do you feel that we can fully realize this and be capable of the same type of consciousness elevation as he displays?
Baba says you'll never understand me, you know, but you can get to a point when you can know, you know, in your heart, you know, who he is. I just haven't got any doubt that he is just pure spirit. He's the power that runs the earth and is in everybody.
And if,
like one time I took a bhajan book. We had a little centre at that time in Ipswich, and I decorated it all up. And I was sitting about 4 from the front, this is at Cody, and I thought, I don't know why I brought this, because I haven't got a hope of getting him to bless it. Not a hope, I'm too far away, I can't lean over that much, you know. But on the inner level, I felt he was saying, go and ask Rani, the head one, and I'm sitting there thinking, no, I can't. She has too many people after her all the time asking her for favours. I really don't think I can. Anyway, in the end, there was a real firm go, so I thought, oh, okay. So I went across and asked her, and I only asked her, could I sit near the slope to hold it up? But the next thing I knew, she put me right by the carpet, and there was only 5 of us left in the interview that time in the group. And he came along, and I just held it up and said to him, will you please bless this budgeon folder for the Centre in Australia, Swami? And he said, how many? And I said 5, and he said, go. But if I hadn't have obeyed the inner voice, I would have still been sitting there full back, holding the folder and not getting it blessed, let alone the interview room. I don't know, you just sort of learn to tune in, but it's a fine line too, I think. You know, like you said, it's a fine line in between your own personal thoughts. This time, I wasn't going to go to India with Dennis. I told everybody I'm not going to India for the birthday. I'm going home from Germany. That's it, full stop. And then we'd already paid for the tickets and everything. And then I said to Dennis, I don't know, I got a feeling I should come to India with you. And I don't know why. On the material level, I still didn't really want to.
You mean on the trip you're on right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, but I sort of obeyed it. To me, it's like, even physically, you can think, I don't think I want to do that, but it's like Barbara's got a ring through your nose, and he sort of says, you're doing that. Anyway, I thought, okay, so I changed my ticket, and after all that was done, and they were in the process of changing it, Moya and Kelly, who's the manager at Swara, got invited to speak at a convention or conference in Hyderabad for about 4 days. And Kelly's quite capable of taking Moya to India, that's not a problem. But she's not allowed to sit where Moya sits, and she doesn't know how to put her in a sari, and she can't be of service in some ways. So, and as it's turned out now, they get to Bangalore 1 hour before us. So now we've already arranged the transport to get, and the hotel, it's all been done. So I feel that I'm going to be blessed to be able to do some more service for her. You know, things sort of happen like that.
And do you plan on seeing Baba continually in the future, even though he's not as accessible?
I don't know. Oh, well, you know, you have to give up on the idea of an interview, although I've been so blessed.
And Dennis?
You still...
Yeah, if he calls me, yeah, I'd ideally love to. As much time as I could.
And
just today will be done.
With your experiment of staying there last year for all these weeks and months, is that something you'd consider doing again?
I would.
And why can't you just do that at home?
It's just to be in his presence makes the difference. It's like everything else, just for me, only for me. It's to be in the power of the Lord. It's to be in the presence. It's a purification process that goes on, and with that purification process, your energy level, your energies are changing. You're just going through this change in your energy level. In your energy, it's just been, you know, the coarseness of your thought processes start to change. And it's a subtle thing. It's just a subtle thing. It's not a thing that happens in an instant, but it's a subtle process that goes on. And I think, and what I've noticed is that it happens if you're there for extended periods of time. If you can be there for extended, and I've seen it, as I said before, I've seen it with other people who are there for extended periods of time. It's a subtle process that goes on, and it's like just cleaning and purifying, and it's just day after day after day. But if you don't feel drawn to do that, that's your pathway. It's whatever is your pathway. Follow that pathway. You must follow the pathway which you feel resonates with that which is within you. That resonates within me at this particular time. And that's the reason why I'm there, because it resonates. The moment it doesn't resonate within me, then I won't be there, because it's thy will be done, and that's what I follow. I feel that's the will of the Lord for me to be there at this particular time. But if it doesn't resonate with you, your pathway is your pathway, and follow that pathway. Follow that which resonates with your own heart. That's all I can say. And the answer to learning to follow that pathway is to listen, follow, and accept the consequences. Because some of the choices you may think on the surface of it aren't appropriate, but your faith will only grow if you follow that faith. If you follow what you feel is right, then your faith gets stronger to keep following. That's been my experience. You get a direction, follow it.
It sounds like you've been asked to accept some not so pleasant consequences from time to time.
Yeah, of course. The ego gets in the way. Yeah, you make mistakes. Well, on the surface of it, you make mistakes. But who knows whether it's a mistake in the whole cause and effect of things. But certainly it's less harmonious.
To both of you, Baba says, your life is my message. As you meet many people in side groups around the world, what changes do you see, given there are all sorts of people? What changes are you seeing in other Sai Baba devotees as you meet them?
That's a hard one.
People you've met on your first and second and third trips, and you've come across them again now, a number of years later. Do you see their growth as well as your own?
Yeah, with some people.
Yeah. Yes,
Some people.
yeah, I was talking to a friend of ours just recently, a person that we knew just recently, and she's reached the point. She was a very strong Baba devotee. She was a nun originally when she was younger, and then she left being a nun, and then she went into a family life, and she was is a very spiritual person, very devout person, and she says that she prays to Baba now, but the focus of her life is living in the moment, is living in this moment, and I think that's the process that some of them go through. They go through the process. They go to Swami. Swami teaches you to let go. Teaches you to purifies you, and then teaches you to go within. And when you go within, then you gradually your capacity to live on a moment by moment basis intensifies. And that's what she says. She's living on a daily basis, and she still has the love for the Lord, but she doesn't feel the need to go to the ashram. It doesn't feel the need to go to the centre. It doesn't feel the need to mix with side devotees.
Question for both of you. Would you recommend any particular approach for an individual to progress spiritually? In other words, obviously, your own approach has worked well for yourself. Have you come across any others that might work well for somebody else looking for something?
What do you mean, going to see Baba?
I think so. I don't know what's behind the question. Yeah.
What was it?
Do you recommend any approach? Can you recommend any approach for an individual to progress spiritually? Somebody really had the desire to grow, but lacked the knowledge of which path to be on.
It's more like understanding Swami.
More like
Well-
understanding.
Understand
Yeah.
Swami.
So, phrase the question.
Okay,
The transformation process.
I'm saying, can you recommend to people, new and already exposed people, as to how to understand Swami better?
Well, really, in a way, Baba said that to me in the interview when he said, that if you're doing from the heart, it's got to be from the heart. You can't, like Dennis said, you can't do it with any expectations. It's got to be unconditional love. But if you see someone that needs help, or you're doing what you can for people, then you're doing it for the God within them. Well, then you're doing it for God. That's. So you have to sort of learn to love everybody, and whatever, like that.
Love without expectations. Love without expectations. Love, give, let go. if you can do that, that's all you need to do.
And speaking of letting go, how have the two of you been able to let go pretty much of your egos?
Oh, I doubt whether we've done that. I've got a little mantra. I say, let go, let God. You know, like if someone's bothering me, I'll say, let go, let God, let go, let God. You do that enough times, and whatever you were worrying about or whatever does sort of get into the background a little bit. Or I say, get off my shoulder to the monkey, just go away, I don't want it. Because everybody's experience is different, everybody's on a different level, not one person's the same, and some of it comes back to karma from a past life as well, and God's the only one that knows the total full picture, you know. I mean, he says, like you three people, the one that other people think you are, the one that you think you are, but what you really are is the pure love that's inside you. And I think sometimes we probably tend to push that down a little bit, you know, and bury it a little bit because of nature and, you know, personal desires or whatever.
Dennis, can you remember back in the days when you had an ego?
I'm sure we have.
I married a good wife. That's what's really helped me. Do you understand that, fellas?
Okay, I want to ask for a final comment from both of you, and the camera's trained on Dennis. Anything you want to say, anything from your heart, and if I've gleaned anything from this process over the last 7 years of interviewing Sai Baba devotees, that which seems to touch me the most is when I see something come from people's hearts, and we really felt that tonight. I've really felt that tonight. How would you like to conclude this with something that we can take home with us and profit from?
Yeah.
Well, love all, serve all for a start. Baba says the hands that help are holier than the lips that pray, and I really believe that, you know. I mean, I'm not a one for meditation anyway. Although in an interview one lady asked him, Swami, which is the best way to meditate? He said, you sing about me, talk about me. What he said was, as long as you're focused on God, you know, that it's all meditation. So whether you do what Dennis does or whether you do what I do, it doesn't really matter. You know, it doesn't really matter.
And Dennis?
I'd keep coming back to the same thing. Just love without expectations. Give without any expectations. Just if we can do that, just give. And look, the purity of that giving is if any one time that you do that, and the more that you practice it, if I can say anything, I'd say that. Just give without expectations. Give, and don't even. There's no expectations. No expectations from the universe to give you anything back. Just that give, and know in your own heart that your needs will be cared for. They will be cared for.
And one thing that's not so easy either is to have faith. Like if you're really worried about something and you pray about it, then you have to work. I don't always do it myself, but I'm really trying hard at the moment because of a family problem to work on it, is to pray about it, give it to God, and then let go. Because if you start worrying again, like the next day, then you haven't given it to him, you're taking it back. You know, but that's not easy to do either. But
just one other thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, along with that, is to know that everything that happens to you is for your own benefit.
Everything.
Every single thing that happens to you is for your own benefit.
And one final question for Dennis. It's a repeat. Who is Sai Baba?
Pure love. Just pure love.
And Doris?
yeah, I'd have to say the same thing. He is pure love, and he's an example for everybody, even with what appears to be great physical disabilities. He's still working 24 hours a day helping other people. And he said, somebody asked him one time, why is it that he gives out things to people? And he said, to be an example, to help for you to learn how to serve, how to give. You know, so
It's pretty easy to see that you two dearly love Sai Baba and
Yep.
the principles he's worked hard to instill in each of you. Doris and Dennis Loel from Australia, from Brisbane, thank you very much, and Sairam.
Well, thank you for
Sorry.
having us. Big responsibility talking about Baba, but
Done a
I
great
hope-
job.
I hope we've
Well,
answered something.
Thank you.